So end-to-end data security. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. And we're going to accomplish this with data-centric security protection. I'm going to explain how that all works on the NonStop platform, but this is also an enterprise solution, so it can be used for any servers in your industry. Just a little quick agenda there. We're just going to talk a little bit about Conforte and what we've done in the NonStop market over the years. Talk about the risks and how high the risks are for data loss today. We'll talk about data-centric security. We'll talk about our product SECURDPS and how that works and how that helps to accomplish the end-to-end data protection. Okay, so Conforte has been around a long time, about 25 years now, and our focus has always been in the connectivity and security area of the NonStop platform. And that's changed a lot over the years. We do a lot of modernization as well. But our key focus is still data security. And as you can see, we have a lot of very large brands, a lot of large corporations that use our product and have for many years. We also have a global reach. So wherever your systems are located, wherever your companies are located, we can provide coverage and in several different languages as well. So let's move on to the drivers for data security investment today. And this investment does continue to grow in most industries. The risk, as you can see on the left here, is both financial and reputation. And again, this is a primary focus for a lot of companies. The chances of a loss in reputation and a large financial impact is quite possible if you have a major data breach. And there's a lot of laws that are driving this. So as you know, there's more and more regulations all the time, state laws, federal laws, industry laws. There's more and more all the time driving the privacy of people's personal information, okay? And that's across many industries. As you know, we saw a lot of this in the payment card industry. There's also a lot of focus now in the health industry and in the insurance industry. And so we're working with a lot of companies across these industries to help them secure their data, meet regulations, and be compliant. And this is a lot of different areas of IT as well. There's a lot of cloud migration going on, and protecting data as it moves from your company into a cloud environment. There's a lot of focus on that today, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, how that can be done. Big data as well, these data warehouses. Most of the data in these warehouses is in the clear today, which does make it very difficult to work with that data safely. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about DevOps, but modernizing, again, is a key focus of what we do. It's very hard to modernize if you're not protecting data. So a little bit about the problem. Data breaches. It continues to grow and grow and grow. This graph pretty much shows exponential growth in the number of data breaches and the amount of data loss from year to year to year. And we don't see that slowing down anytime soon. So from the time the pandemic started to 2022, there's going to be pretty much a doubling in the amount of data breaches that we've seen. So risk reduction, that's kind of what it's all about. Trying to reduce the risk of losing customers' data, sensitive data that could be used fraudulently by somebody else. And this helps to make your business safer, but also allows you to use the data more to grow your business. You can see up in the top right there, it says about 98% of brands that are using data warehouses, big data today, have that data in the clear. Okay, so this is also across the middle band here, you can see sort of the process we go through working with companies to reduce their risk. And you can see the challenges there. The amount of data continues to grow and grow. The number of customers, how you use that data. I talked about cloud migration. So there's more and more places that your data can be lost or can be breached. So part of the process is working with customers to classify and discover where all this sensitive data is. Then we can go about protecting it with, again, what we call data-centric protection. I'll explain that a little bit more, but again, it's not so much securing the systems or user access as we used to do. In the past, it's more about securing the data, making that data unreadable or unusable if anybody were to get their hands on it. So the results is, you're meeting regulations, you're meeting compliance in your industry, you can grow your business, you can be more secure, and you don't have the risk of financial loss or reputational loss. So there's a lot of money being spent these days in different areas, or sometimes what we consider perimeter security. So be that firewalls, login access, mining of activity, securing particular systems of databases or file systems. A lot has been done over the years to secure each and every platform in the industry, but very little has been done to actually secure the data. So that's really what we want to do. We want to protect the data itself. Not so much worried about what platform it's on or where that data is going or what's being done with the data. Once the data is protected, it's secure, and it's secure on any platform that it might be used on. Okay, so this is a good graphic that I used to use, like to use for end-to-end data protection. And you can see with the traditional security methods, we have these gaps. If you see that red arrow, between systems, between, middleware, firewall, databases, every time you're changing systems or changing databases, you have this gap because you need to have the data in the clear to process it, okay? So these point solutions create these gaps, which are chances for security breaches. When we do data-centric protection, we see this nice clean green arrow on the right side. So wherever that data goes, it's protected and it's secure in all your environments. Okay, without the right protection, different types of data are at risk. And again, depending on your industry, those risks vary. And the chance of a data breach happening increases, again, depending on where this data is saved or where it's moved to. We're quite all familiar with PCI, credit card protection. It's been around for a long time. Again, it was a very good set of rules and regulations to help basically protect the credit card brands from all the bad news on data breaches. Okay, so they basically came out and said, based on these regulations, people have to protect this data because if you don't, it makes the credit card companies look bad. It looks like it's not a very secure way to make payments. And obviously we don't want to see that. So that's what drove, again, all of the regulations in PCI. But we see the same thing in healthcare and insurance. There's more regulations all the time. And in a lot of these industries, there's a lot more data elements. It's not just a credit card number. It's people's names, addresses, date of birth, social security numbers, bank account numbers. So there's more and more data all the time. And just think of, would you want anybody to see your financial information or your health information that your doctor might have? There's a lot of things in there that are sensitive that you wouldn't want anybody else except the intended party, the doctor, to be able to see and use. Okay? So wherever the data is stored, and that's really the important thing with data-centric, it's going to be secured. Okay, so whether that's on premises, in the cloud, between organizations, When we're using data-centric security, it's secured all the way through that life cycle. So what kind of risk are we talking about? And there are a lot of different risks here that the companies look at when it comes to data security. And one of those is company reputation. I mean, nobody wants to be on the front page or front of a blog explaining how bad their breach was, you know. And so there's a loss of reputation, and that can lead to financial impacts as well. So there's a high cost recovering from these data breaches. Just doing the forensic work and determining what happened where and what was lost takes months and months and months at most organizations and costs a lot of money. So there's a large financial impact. There's also quite often a churn in customers. So a loss of customers due to the fact that you lost millions of people's personal data. Okay, people don't like that. And when they feel the company they're working with isn't secure, and they feel that because of the data breach, they'll go elsewhere with their business. Okay, so again, very large impact on customer churn when you have a data breach. There's also internal job loss, you know, in the organization, and that's from C-level on down. So people lose their jobs when data isn't protected and there's a breach. So the impact, again, very large. So business drivers, talked a little bit about that. Regulations, they continue to escalate. But what you really need to do is to use the data you have. I mean, that's how your business runs today. But the only way you can do that efficiently is to protect it. So we want to use the data as we always have, but we want to protect it. So if anybody ever gets access to a database or a program, they won't be able to see or de-identify that sensitive information and use it. So, and unfortunately, a lot of the traditional approaches just don't work. They protect the system or maybe a group of users, maybe one platform, but they don't protect the data through the full life cycle within an organization. So standards, compliance, laws, regulatory drivers. We see them all the time, and these regulations continue to get tighter and tighter all the time. GDPR, I mean, a lot of companies are still working out compliance to GDPR. And that doesn't just affect people in Europe or the European Union. This is around the world. If you have customers that are from the European Union, be that organizations or individuals, you have to protect their data and you have to meet these regulations. So data protection with tokenization is an excellent way to do this. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so tokenization, what it is and how it works in the SECURDPS product. So what we do is we use tokenization, or we generate tokens to replace sensitive data elements within applications and databases. Okay, so we have applications today on various platforms in the organization, and within those applications, we're processing some sort of data that is sensitive. People's names, people's addresses, social security numbers, bank account numbers, credit cards. So depending on, you know, the application that you're using and the industry you're in, you may have different data elements, but they all need to be protected based on the regulations. So with CONUNDRUM's tokenization solution, we basically feed that sensitive data in, and based on how we configure the tokenization, we then get a non-sensitive token returned. So if you see in the center at the bottom there, this person's last name has been protected, the tax ID has been changed, and the credit card number as well. So all of the sensitive information in that particular record is now protected with tokenization, and wherever it flows downstream into applications, databases, multiple systems, it's all protected, because what you're doing now is flowing the tokens downstream, not the sensitive data elements. and the application doesn't know we're doing this. Okay, I'll explain why here in just a minute. So the data-centric protection, we start with a data element like a PAN here, and we feed that into the tokenization engine. And based on how that's configured, we get a token return that is format preserving. As you can see, we turn this numeric value into a numeric token, but we can also turn it into an alpha token or an alphanumeric token. So this is all done based on the configuration within the SECURDPS product. And you can see in this last token here, we did a 664 type token. So we can leave certain digits of a sensitive data element clear. So you can see we left 6 digits at the front in the clear, we tokenized the middle 6, and we left the last 4 digits in the clear. So this is all to help with using the data in the token format, so you don't always have to untokenize. So it's protected, but you can still work with it. And this can be used for any data element. So it can be used for names, addresses, numbers, etc. Okay. And again, you can see here, this is an alphanumeric token that we generated from a person's name. Okay, so it's very flexible on how you configure it in your organization. Now let's talk specifically about the NonStop platform, because tokenization works basically the same on all the different platforms. But on NonStop, it's a little bit different. We can use the intercept technology. So we can take your existing applications, which, as you know, sometimes are very old applications, and you may not even have the source code or the ability to change those applications. But with the intercept technology, we can bind that into your existing application that then redirects the sensitive data element into the SECURDPS manager. And based on the configuration that we've set up for that data element, it goes into the tokenization engine, and a token is generated and sent to the database. Okay? So it's as simple as that. The application wasn't changed. There was no code change in the existing application. We bound in the intercept. It redirected to SECURDPS. It tokenized based on the configuration of the data element. And you've now got tokens in the database. And you can also see you've got an audit log of what was done. Okay. So it's very simple, in a nutshell, how it works on the NonStop platform. Okay. So let's have a quick look at classic data protection, and we can see all these different areas of computing within an organization. And data has usually been shared, between these platforms, between these applications, between the databases. And these days, again, we get to see a lot more cloud migration and so on. So people wanting to actually move the data outside of their organization to be processed in some manner. So the traditional approach has been to look at each and every one of these little blocks and try to protect it. But what we really want to do is go back to that end-to-end approach. What we want to do is protect the data element, not the particular system or database that data is stored in. Okay, and that gives us that complete protection from end to end. So the 2 key strategies for data-centric security. We want to protect the data as early as possible. So when it first comes into your organization, when that person's name and personal information is entered into a screen and stored in a database, you want to protect it right then. Okay, so as soon as it goes to the database, it's protected. It's in a token format. And then you want to leave that in the token format as long as possible. Your applications can see the clear data, but the idea is to leave it in a token format so anybody else that were to access a program, a database that's unauthorized can't detokenize it. You need the SECURDPS engine, and you need the application to work together to reveal and process the sensitive information when required. And our tokenization does comply with the ANSI X9 standard for tokenization, we were actively involved in the ANSI community to help create these token standards. Okay, ensuring PCI compliance to avoid big fines. Again, this has been a lot of the work that we've done over many, many years, because PCI was one of those first regulations that came out and was very involved as far as what could be done with PANs, how they had to be stored, how they could be processed, encrypted, tokenized, what have you. And tokenization is a very good way to protect PAN data, and it really reduces the scope for compliance and meeting this 3.4 statute of protecting the data wherever it's stored. So we've worked with a lot of customers in this industry. The solution has been very well accepted, and the result has been PCI compliance. And in almost all cases, this has been done on what we call online migration. So there's been no downtime to convert PAN data into tokens live in production environments. Now, big data is another area we get a lot of interest in these days, because big data, like I said, in most cases is in the clear. People are trying to do analytics with this. They're downloading this to manipulate or look at data. So this data is coming out of these data warehouses in the clear in almost all cases. So it's a big risk, and it's a growing risk, because there's more and more data, and people are trying to do more and more with that data. Okay, so again, a lot more data to protect here, but it can all be done in the same way: tokenization, deployed in the databases. And then you can now work with the big data. You can move it to the cloud for analytics. You can transfer it between systems. When it's in a token format, it's secure. Okay, so the many benefits of protecting data. Hopefully these would be obvious to people now, but it certainly makes it much easier for integration in your business applications. It adds a lot more options and flexibility, and the chance to be more innovative with that information that you have stored. It really reduces the attack vectors, so severely reduces the chance of a data breach. This works in very complex environments, multiple platforms. And the whole idea, again, is to protect that data, whether it's on premises, moving to the cloud, moving between organizations. It's protected all the time in a token format. Okay, now scalable. It's very scalable. So wherever basically tokenization is done, you can do this on different platforms. You can have dedicated protection nodes. The throughput on these protection nodes is extremely high. You can see 30,000 transactions per second on one CPU. And actually, I think that's a single thread on a single virtual CPU. So you can really crank this up with multiple threads, multiple CPUs, and multiple protection nodes. So it's basically unlimited bandwidth on how fast you can tokenize and detokenize data. So here's a view of basically implementation in a corporation that has multiple server platforms. You can see the NonStop in the bottom right corner there. And it can just be one of many servers that are used as protection nodes. And again, you can have dedicated protection nodes, so that's all that server does is protection and deprotection, but it can also be part of an application server. And you can see in all the databases, on all the servers, the data is protected because it's running SECURDPS. Here's the architecture of basically an enterprise implementation of SECURDPS. You can see you have a cluster of protection nodes. And this can be, again, NonStop servers or other servers within the organization. And this is basically a network of servers that talk to one another, so they can share workloads. And if one goes down, it doesn't interrupt any of the tokenization process. There's a management console, which basically configures all of these protection nodes and knows where these protection nodes are and what they're doing. Okay, There's also an audit console, and this is used to track all the data on the tokenization that's done based on applications, users, systems, etc. So expanding data-centric protection to SaaS applications. Again, this is a very active use case right now. More and more people are coming to us all the time because they're using more SaaS applications, and they're saying, how can I protect my data when I move it to the cloud? So even if you're not protected, in your environment, on your main systems, if you want to export that to some other server, some other application that's remote, you can at least protect it when it goes to the cloud. With the SECURDPS cloud connector, that's basically what we do. We take your data as it moves to the cloud, we protect it, and it goes to the cloud provider as tokens. And when it gets access to be used, then it is detokenized based on the authorization rights of that user. Okay, and this is just a quick look at the audit console and the analytics. Won't go into that. We're getting a little short on time now. So just a wrap up, basically for the NonStop, the key features using intercept technology, we can bind in SECURDPS, which does the tokenization with no application changes. Very critical. It can work with other intercepts that are possibly used on these systems, such as data replication. It's very common to see multiple intercepts stacked together, so that's not a problem. And this is very well proven on the NonStop. So we've worked with SQL and Inscribe environments, and we've had successful implementations across the board. And the passive deployment, or what we call online migration, has been used in almost all cases. Well, thank you very much for your time and attention. Appreciate it. Is there any questions? Okay, if not, please feel free to contact me with my email address there or my phone number. Thanks very much. Bye now.